Hello, everyone, and here we have a new story. Before we get to that, I want to ask you to subscribe, like, and be sure to write comments in order to participate in the development of the community. Write how to improve my community, current topics in the stories you are interested in, and much more. I read and listen to all the comments. People write me stories by mail from different countries. There are problems with translation. I apologize for this. I will work on it and try to fix these errors. I want to thank everyone for their support and the people who wrote to me by mail. Broadcast news stories. New videos on my channel are published once every 2 days at 7 p.m. Don't forget to put a bell in order not to miss new videos. And now let's go. I met my wife when she was finishing school. I am 5 years older than my wife. My wife was a modest girl. My wife's family did not live in great prosperity. Her father drank. My wife and I had common ideas about the value of life. I was her first sexual partner. We had mutual friends. We lived in a small town and also studied together. Sometimes we prefer to get together with friends and come to my wife's house to celebrate the holidays. At the very beginning, I just liked her because my wife went to school and the age difference was too great. I didn't take any action. When my wife graduated from school, I came to her. We were left alone. She didn't take my advances seriously. She was afraid of me. I had a reputation as a bully in the company. Then we remembered it with a smile. She said she didn't know why she thought that of me. We started a serious relationship. My wife passed her exams and went to college. The college was located in another city. It wasn't very far away. I often came to her by bus. Almost immediately after we met, I said that I would marry her. My wife wanted to finish her studies first after 3 years of our relationship. A close friend of my wife had a wedding. The bride invited my wife to the wedding as a witness. I knew my wife's friend and her husband very well. I was not invited, as I understood, at the request of my wife. I felt a certain coldness in our relationship. It was as if my future wife didn't care anymore. I helped with the wedding arrangements. What was going on in my soul at that moment cannot be described in words. My best friend Kyle and I got drunk at a bar on our wedding day. I almost got picked up by the police. After the wedding, the cold in the relationship continued. Time passed, and they gathered to watch the wedding video. My wife said she couldn't take me with her. At that moment, I had to show determination. But the love in my head spoke for itself. Thoughts of trusting my wife are spinning in my head. As soon as I started talking about this wedding, my wife started getting angry. That time was hell for me. I drank a lot of alcohol. I couldn't even do anything at work. All my thoughts were immersed in this situation. I told my wife that if anything happens, tell me right away. Yes, the bitter truth is better than the sweet lie. It will hurt me, but I will step aside and gradually come to my senses. But over time, our relationship began to improve. The coldness between us has disappeared. We started spending a lot of time together. Phone conversations between us lasted for hours. My pain was somewhere far away. Sometimes, of course, the truth came out. I drowned this truth in alcohol. My loyal friend tried to help me mentally. Many thanks to my friend. Thanks to him, I probably didn't go on a binge. He even tried to separate us. But a year passed and we got married. I love my wife very much. In our sexual life, my wife was not experienced. I brought all the innovations to our intimate life with my wife. I told her every day that I loved her very much. After my words about love, my wife constantly looked at me in silence. Time passed. We had a son. We bought a 3-room apartment. After a while, we had a daughter. During this time, my wife was categorically against my communication with friends. She wouldn't let me go to parties. My wife made scandals, after which I stayed at home. In general, I have no friends left. But one day, there was a reunion, and I decided to go. The evening was wonderful. We met with classmates and even with some teachers. Then a classmate invited me to his dacha. Everything was decent. Of course, someone had drunk too much alcohol. But in general, we sat down, remembered the old days, danced. I'll say one thing, I didn't have any intimacy. I hope I didn't upset anyone with this information. I got home at 5 o'clock in the morning. My wife wouldn't let me into the apartment. I had to spend the night at my sister's. My wife and I had a big fight. I told my wife that I love her alone and I don't need anyone else. Besides, my wife's brother was with me that night. I'm not so close to him that he starts covering for me. In the end, we reconciled. 2 years have passed. My wife says she's going to a reunion. I let my wife go without any scandals. I trusted my wife 100%. It took my wife a long time to get ready. She called a taxi and left for a meeting. I stayed at home with the kids. She returned home at 3 a.m. Some guy brought my wife by car. Besides the guys, my wife's friend was sitting in the car. Of course, I was a little angry, but in the end I cooled down. It's been about an hour. I'm going to the kitchen. My wife is sitting at the table and crying. I started to calm my wife down. Thoughts appeared in my head, maybe someone had offended her. I asked my wife what happened. She didn't answer me for a long time. Then she said she took a pregnancy test and it turned out to be positive. I told her it was very good news. However, we were not planning a third child, but I thought a lot about why she was crying. Why didn't you tell me as usual? Time passed. We had a son. My son didn't look like me at all. The eldest son is my copy. The youngest is not. My wife loves her youngest son the most, but I also love him very much. During this time, everything was in our relationship. Scandals, reconciliation, passion, and so on. The tenderness on my wife's part has disappeared. My wife works as a school teacher. When she was doing homework with the kids, she was yelling at our kids. I couldn't watch it. So I gradually took matters into my own hands. What was going on in my soul? It was very hard for me, so I started drinking often again. I have never said anything bad to the children about their mother. My wife, on the contrary, turned the children against me. Time passed, and the children began to be rude to me. I thought, let them live without their father. I moved in with my mother for a while. After work, I spent time with the children. 2 months later, I was hospitalized with a broken leg, work injury. Everything is fine. I've recovered, but I'm still on sick leave. I'm gradually starting to walk, and everything seems to be fine. I returned home and found out that my wife is in correspondence on social networks with a married man. This man gives my wife gifts. I couldn't stand it and made a scandal. During our scandal, my wife slapped me in the face. In response, I pushed my wife. Time passed and I cooled down. I had a feeling of guilt. I had a principle that women should never be touched. I'm not looking for excuses, but I really couldn't help myself. In the end, we reconciled and decided to establish a relationship. Only I have the impression that I decided so myself. I touch my wife and feel that she is disgusted. My wife is moving away from me. I called my wife's friend who was having a wedding. They don't talk to my wife anymore. I asked her to send a video from the wedding. When I watched this video, I was shocked. My wife is glowing all over. My wife kissed the witness from the groom's side so tenderly that I could only dream of such kisses. The witness carries my wife in his arms. They look at each other with loving eyes. After watching this video, it became clear that my wife's friend brought them together despite the fact that she knew about me. Of course, I'm a very stupid deer. But tell me everything at once. Why torture me all my life? As a result, I couldn't stand it. I did a DNA test. Yes, as you have already understood, the third child is not mine. I made a scandal again. My wife confessed that this child is from a guy who was a witness at the wedding. I was in so much pain at that moment. I did everything for my wife. A question popped into my head. How could she do this to me, despite all my principles? This time I slapped my wife. But I didn't regret it anymore. She deserved it. A few days later, I went to court in order to file for divorce. My wife begged me to change my mind and withdraw the application. How she said she didn't want to be left alone with 3 children. In response, I said that she should have thought about it earlier. I didn't change my mind and brought the matter to an end. My ex-wife already lives all alone. The guy she had a child with disappeared. As far as I understand, this guy didn't need my 2 kids. I'm trying to start a new life, but it's very hard for me. So I told my story to get advice from the community. Please write a comment. What should I do in this situation? I don't forget about my 2 children. I hope that when they grow up, they will understand everything. This is the end of my story. Let's move on to the advice of the author of the channel. Before we get to the advice, I want to say that I'm sincerely sorry that you got into such a situation. I think every man in our community deserves the best. Friends, let's not stay away. Write your tips in the comments. Support the guy or tell the truth. Channel author's advice. I am truly sorry to hear about the difficult situation you find yourself in. It is obvious that you are facing a lot of emotional turmoil and problems. Here are some tips for you. Obviously, both you and your ex-wife have experienced many emotional ups and downs. Consider seeking help from a therapist or counselor individually to help you sort out your feelings and emotions. Your children are innocent in this situation, and it is important to prioritize their well-being. Try to maintain a healthy co-parenting relationship with your ex-wife for the sake of your children. Open and respectful communication is the key to success. It is very important to have friends or family members that you can rely on in difficult times. Reconnect with friends you may have lost touch with and create a powerful support system for yourself. Pay attention to your own physical and mental health. Avoid excessive alcohol consumption, as this can worsen emotional distress. Exercise, eat well, and do things that bring you joy. Healing takes time, and it's okay to grieve the loss of your marriage. Give yourself time to sort out your emotions and gradually move forward. Although it can be incredibly difficult, try to find a way to forgive your ex-wife for her actions. Forgiveness is not for her, but for your own peace of mind. Make sure you have legal custody arrangements and financial support for your children. Consultation with a family lawyer can help you navigate this process. Use this difficult experience as an opportunity for personal growth. Reflect on what you have learned about yourself and relationships. This self-awareness may prove valuable in future endeavors. When you are ready, and if you decide to continue the relationship in the future, take the time to get to know this person properly. Trust is vital, and open communication is the key to any successful partnership. Life can be difficult, but try to keep a positive attitude. Focus on your goals, both personal and for your children, and strive for a bright future. Remember that healing takes time. Everyone's path is unique. Feel free to contact a mental health professional if you are struggling to cope with your emotions. You deserve happiness and peace in your life, and with time and effort, you will be able to rebuild and move forward. If you have watched to the end, I want to say thank you very much. I love you all. Thank you for joining me on this exciting journey of love, betrayal, and redemption. I appreciate your support and encourage you to subscribe, like, and share this story. Your participation and feedback are invaluable for shaping our content and promoting mutual understanding and community growth. Until we meet again.